Here's a question I guess asked more than anything else in vegan baking. What do I use instead of eggs? And the honest answer, the one that nobody actually wants to hear, is well, it depends. Because that question assumes eggs do one job, and they don't. Eggs do many jobs, sometimes all at once. And understanding what those jobs are will make a difference between a vegan bake that works and one that's a complete misery when it fails. So this series, which will be 3 videos, is going to go through all of it. Every major egg replacer, what it actually does, how it works at a basic food science level, and most importantly, which application it's right for and which ones it's genuinely not. This is not a shopping list video, this is a thinking video. Because when you understand the logic, you stop guessing and you start making better decisions in your pastry journey. Let's start at the beginning. Before we can talk about replacing eggs, we need to talk about eggs themselves, specifically the different things they do in a recipe. Because an egg in a custard is doing something completely different from an egg in a meringue, and an egg in a cake is doing something different from an egg in a short crust pastry. The molecule is the same, but the function changes entirely depending on the context. So let's break it down. When you heat egg proteins, mainly ovalbumin, in the white and several proteins in the yolk, they unfold and bond together. That's what they call coagulation, and it's what sets a custard, firms up a cake crumb, and gives you that sliceable texture in a tart filling. Heat causes the proteins to grab onto each other and form a solid network. Without that network, you get soup. With it, you get crème brûlée. The yolk specifically is one of nature's best emulsifiers, and it's down to a compound called lecithin. Lecithin has a head that likes water and a tail that likes fat, so it sits right at the boundary between the two and keeps them from separating. That's why egg yolks in a hollandaise, in mayonnaise and custard creams, anywhere you need fat and water to coexist peacefully. In pastry, emulsification contributes to a smooth, cohesive dough and a tender, even crumb. This is primarily the white. Egg whites are about 90% water and 10% protein, and those proteins are remarkably good at wrapping around air bubbles and holding them stable. When you whip a white, you're creating a foam, a network of protein films around millions of tiny air pockets. That foam, when baked, gives you lift, lightness, and in the case of a meringue, actual stability. The yolk also contributes some aeration, particularly in whole egg sponges where the fat in the yolk helps stabilize the foam differently from the white alone. Raw egg acts as a glue. The proteins and the fat together help hold ingredients in a mixture without them falling apart. This is what keeps a burger patty together, what helps a cookie hold its shape, and what gives pastry dough enough cohesion to roll and cut without crumbling. Eggs are mostly water, about 70% overall. That moisture participates in the gluten development, steam production during baking, and a general texture. This one often gets overlooked, but if you replace an egg without replacing the moisture, you will actually notice it. The yolk is around 30% fat, and that fat contributes tenderness, flavor, and that golden color in things like brioche or enriched doughs. It also affects mouthfeel, that slightly creamy quality you get in a good custard or a well-made cake. So, when someone asks, what replaces an egg? The real question is, which of these functions does this specific recipe need? Sometimes it's one, sometimes it's 3 or 4 at once, and that's where it gets genuinely complicated and where using a single replacer will not be enough. Keep those 6 functions in mind throughout this whole series. We will come back to them constantly. Alright, let's start with probably the most well-known replacer, the flax egg, and its close cousin, chia egg. The basic method, 1 tablespoon of ground flaxseed mixed with 3 tablespoons of water. Let it sit for about 5 minutes and it thickens up to something that looks and behaves a bit like beaten egg. What's happening there is that flax seeds are very high in soluble fiber, specifically mucilage. When that mucilage hits water, it hydrates and swells into a gel, and that gel is what you are using in place of the binding and moisture functions of egg. Chia works the same way, same ratio roughly, 1 tablespoon of chia seeds to 3 tablespoons of water. Chia mucilage is actually slightly more robust than flax, holds more water, and doesn't doesn't have the slightly nutty flavor that ground flax brings. If you're using whole chia seeds and you don't want texture in the final bake, blend them after soaking or use white chia if the brown color is a problem. Now, here's what these two things are generally good at: binding in baked goods and have plenty of other structure going on. Dense cookies, brownies, muffins, banana bread, anywhere the batter or dough is relatively thick and the egg's main job was holding things together. They work well there because they add that gel-like cohesion and the moisture contribution is covered by the water you have added. What they cannot do is aerate. There is no protein network in a flax egg that traps air bubbles. None. So if you're making a chiffon cake, a sponge, a layered cake that relies on eggs being whipped to ribbon stage, a flax egg will give you something flat and dense. The texture will be off and the crumb will be heavy. They also don't emulsify in the way egg yolk does. There's no lecithin in flaxseed in meaningful quantities. So in something like custard or a pastry cream that needs stable fat in water emulsion, these are not the right tool. One more thing worth knowing: flaxseed gel doesn't coagulate with heat. You can bake it and it will stay gelled. It will not firm up the way egg proteins do when they set. So in a quiche, a custard tart, anything where you need that clean slicing, set texture, this will not give you that. Always use ground flaxseed, not whole seeds. Whole flax seeds pass through relatively intact and the mucilage never fully releases. If you're buying whole seeds, grind them in a spice grinder and store the ground meal in the freezer because flax seeds go rancid quite quickly once you ground them because of its high omega-3 content. So best applications for these are dense quick breads, brownies, oatmeal cookies, crumble toppings, or savory grain patties. Not ideal for anything light and airy like custards, emulsified fillings, anything that relies on eggs setting with heat. Before we close out this video, let's quickly cover commercial egg replacers. The things you buy in a box or a packet specifically designed to do this job. The main ones you will encounter are like Orgran, Bob's Red Mill Egg Replacer, Just Egg. It's the liquid one designed for scrambling but used in baking as well, and various others versions you can find in health food stores. Most of the powder-based ones use a similar formula, some combination of potato starch or tapioca starch for binding, psyllium husk or methylcellulose for gel forming, and sometimes a leavening agent, baking soda, and an acid to give a bit of a lift. Think of the starches as a natural glue. When heated with liquid, the starch grains puff up and break apart, creating a thick paste that binds your ingredients. It won't give you the solid structure of cooked egg proteins, but it does a perfectly fine job for holding the cake together. If your mix has psyllium husk, it creates a gooey gel that acts a lot like flaxseed. But the really cool part is the methylcellulose. It's a modified plant fiber with a weird superpower. It gets firm when it's hot and turns back to a liquid when it cools down. That is the exact opposite of how normal jelly works. Companies use it on purpose in vegan foods to trick your tongue into thinking it's eating real eggs that are cooked in the oven. For most standard baking like vanilla cake, muffins, scones, quick breads, commercial egg replacers perform reasonably well. They're convenient, consistent, and they're specifically calibrated so that one equivalent equals one egg, which takes the maths out of it. The limitations are that they don't aerate. Like flax eggs, these are binding and moisture solutions. You're not getting foam from a box of Orgran. So same rule applies. Light, airy bakes need a different approach. They also tend to leave a slightly different mouthfeel in a delicate applications. In a dense cookie, you won't notice it, but in a pale, fine crumbled cake, you sometimes can. If you're using a commercial egg replacer in something that normally would have an egg for richness as well as binding, like a short crust, add a teaspoon of neutral oil or a small amount of plant-based milk alongside the replacer. You're compensating for the fat and moisture the yolk would have contributed. It makes a noticeable difference in the final texture. Best applications would include everyday cakes, muffins, scones, cookies, situations where convenience is more important and the bake is kind of forgiving. It's definitely not ideal for highly technical applications, anything where egg is doing multiple jobs simultaneously, anywhere you need actual aeration or heat set coagulation. So, that's part one. We covered what eggs are actually doing in your recipes, those 6 functions, and we looked at your most accessible everyday replacers: flax, chia, and commercial options. These are your binders. They are great at holding things together. They are not going to give you lift, they're not going to set like a custard, but for a dense, forgiving bake, they're a right tool and they do their job really well. In part 2, we're getting into more exciting territory, aquafaba, and what they can actually do, plus the starchy side of patisserie, level fillings, and custards. So I will see you there. Bye!